Hello all sentient beings and welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, where we talk all news, comics, and media related to the... On this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode, we start teasing some of the prizes in our September Mega Contest. Jeremy reviews Transformers vs. Visionaries issue number 1, and in media news, the full voice cast list has been revealed for Machinima's Transformers Power of the Primes. Today is January 18th, 2018, and this is episode 60 of Transmissions Alt Mode.
Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, the podcast that killed off Yoshi in a crossover event, and he's super dead and definitely never, ever coming back. I'm your host, Charles, aka Big C, and I'm joined by the excellent Transmissions team. Jeremy, aka Yakko.
Hey, how you doing?
And Daryl, the Cybertronian Beast.
Let's talk Transformers.
All right, we normally start off with donations, but we don't have any new ones this week. But we do want to mention an upcoming mega contest that is on the horizon. We are getting ready for to give away lots of awesome prizes later in the year. We're getting ready for our 5th anniversary on the podcast, and we're building up to a bunch of other stuff too. So we've already announced one of the prizes in the Transmissions main show. If you haven't listened to that show, go listen and hear what we talk about there. You can also see it in trips to the store. But we've got another prize to announce here. So, Daryl, take it away.
All right. Well, as I mentioned in the previous show, the mega prize or the mega contest is going to be taking place later on in the year, like Charles just said, either August around then. And one of the pieces of the prize that we announced in the previous show is an MP36 Megatron, one of the best toys of last year. Well, we wanted to add another little tidbit to this prize pool for this episode here. Since this is a comic episode, we were going to add something comic related. And since I almost spilled the beans in the last episode, I figured what the hell, I'll just say it this time. We're adding a CGC graded 9.8 slabbed version of our Till All Are One #1 Transmissions comic. This is something that Yoshi was able to ascertain last year sometime, and this is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we all have a copy of it.
Yep, I have a copy on my wall.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. We're a little biased on the art, but having it graded at 9.8 is pretty much almost the best that you can get, unless you're able to manage a 10 out of CGC, which is very, very rare. So we're going to be adding a 9.8 CGC slabbed Till All Are One #1 Transmissions covered comic to this prize pool, and I think it's pretty awesome. Now, sure, a lot of the people that will be participating in this contest will already have a copy of the comic because they are this contest is a Patreon contest, but not a lot of them will have it slabbed by CGC.
Yeah. So you already have a copy you can read, so have a copy you can't read.
That's right. And then that one that will be worth a significantly large amount more. We've seen them go on or be at least listed on eBay for $250. So this is a pretty big jump in price.
Yeah. I did
don't get
notice
hung up on
something.
the details, Jeremy. Don't get hung up on the details.
I did notice something about the cover. As I was thinking back on how Till All Are One ended, the verbiage that we had them put on the cover, the Starscream and Windblade battle for the Council of Worlds, it's pretty much the entire story of the entire series.
Yeah.
If you look at where it ended up.
We called it at the beginning.
Yeah. We picked our shot, and there you go.
That's that psychic ability that Daryl tapped into last episode.
There you go. Although I think Charles came up with that.
We're all psychic then.
Yeah. I think this is pretty cool and totally worth participating in this contest for. So how do you participate? Well, you got to be a Patreon of the podcast. And
Anything else?
basically, if you are a Patreon of the $10 and up level, you get 2 entries in the contest. Simple.
But everyone else gets 1.
Yep.
So, and we do
And
have,
you can also do
we do have more media related prizes to announce later.
Yep. So yeah.
And you could do PayPal too. If you would rather do PayPal monthly donations instead of Patreon, you will still get counted as being part of the Transmissions Donatreon family.
Yep.
And entered in the contest.
This prize, or these prizes, is that we're still figuring out if we're going to do it in 2 or 3 prize pools, because we've got a lot of stuff.
We've been hoarding.
We have been. And we're just going to... These people that win this are going to be pretty excited. There's a lot of really good shit coming out here. Worth playing for? All right, let's go.
All right, well, let's move on to some comics news. So we've just got one news item this week, but it's a really good one because friend of the show, Alex Milne, revealed the More Than Meets the Eye alt mode for Megatron on Twitter. So Alex was showing one of his sketches, and it's really nice seeing how More Than Meets the Eye Megatron would transform. And he also released on Twitter a couple other sketches. He released the Dire Wraith evolution of the Star Drive character from ROM versus Transformers, and he released several sketches of those. So it's really cool to see this artwork. Hopefully it'll get used at some point in the future if Alex is back on one of these books or gets a chance to draw these characters again. But it was really nice.
Yeah.
Seeing this art.
I don't know if it was on Facebook or Reddit, but I saw someone, apparently they've been out of the loop. They were like, there's an Autobot logo. He screwed up. And, it's like, how long has it been since Dark Cybertron? Because like this was an IDW related thing. But I agree. The drawings are awesome, particularly Star Drive. Anytime we get to see more Star Drive, I'm in favor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
I absolutely loved the drawing for Megatron. And when I saw it, I tweeted out to Alex that it was amazing. Also tweeted out the image of Lost Light number 3, the RI cover that was done by Nelson Daniel, who figured he could also take the opportunity to make the alt mode for Megatron, which we had never seen before. And I didn't think he had the right to do that. So seeing the differences between the 2 designs was pretty big, and how much Alex's looks. You can see the robot mode in Alex's design. You can see where things are coming from and going in the alt mode there. The cover for Lost Light number 3, I don't really know what where things are coming from on that one. It just looks like a gray tank. So
yeah, I put a link to that in the chat. Maybe we can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, so take a look at that. But it's definitely a really big difference.
More of a generic tank.
Yeah, but the Star Drive one is pretty cool. Taking a look at her out of control mode, it's kind of cool too. Very cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that out there, and everyone can go take a look at those images, let's move on to our comic review.
All right, we are looking at, this is the big one, guys. We're looking at Transformers versus Visionaries number 1. This is written by Magdalene Visago, art by Fico Asio, colors by David Garcia Cruz, letters by Gilberto Lascano, assistant editor David Marriott, edited by Sarah Gatos, with assistance from Carlos Guzman. Publisher is Ted Adams. And we believe Carlos is gone from IDW now, and David is likely the editor on these Transformer books. That will come into play later. It's also interesting to seeing a book without Tom B. Long on it.
Mm-hmm.
But we have 4 covers here. So we have 4 covers here. Cover 1, Ironhide is not having a very good day thanks to Viralina and her magic staff. This is done by Fico Asio. Cover B, Viralina and her staff with the little shark hologram thing on it. And cover Retail Incentive A has Leoric and Cup inside. A Cup is inside kind of a silhouette of Leoric's lion symbol. And then Retailer Incentive B has Merklin standing underneath where Ironhide's bottom half should be. And cover B, sorry, I didn't mention who did these. Cover B was done by Andrew Griffith. Retailer Incentive A was done by Brendan Cahill and Lauren Bennett. Retailer Incentive B is done by Angel Hernandez and Esther Sands. Daryl, which one of these 4 do you like?
Well, if you watched last week, you'll know that I bought cover A. Now, looking at all the different covers available, I think RIB is probably the most badass cover because Ironhide is just torn in half. And from just the look of the book, we don't know why. Cover A is still pretty badass because Ironhide's, getting impaled. There's some good covers here. But I think if I were to go with one, it would be RIB. It's just, I want to know, by looking at them, just by the covers, I want to know why Ironhide's been torn in half.
Right. Charles, what about you?
I was going to go with the Brendan Cahill one just because I felt like that had the best rendered Transformer on there. Like, I think Brendan had the best handle on rendering Cup there.
Considering he's a Transformers artist.
And yeah, I was kind of turned off by the fact that the cover B didn't even have any Transformers on it. I mean, Andrew Griffith, I love you, but give me a bot on there with Viralina, please.
The way it's drawn, maybe it's a connecting cover.
That's what I was going to say. It looks like it might be a connection, yeah.
Oh, maybe.
So we'll let you revisit your choice next time.
Get ready to eat your words.
It's unusual to have connecting covers with multiple artists, isn't it? It's usually...
No, I mean, he could be doing the cover B for all of them.
Oh, maybe.
That's usually how they go. Because this is a mini-series. It's not an ongoing.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. Prove me wrong, Andrew. Prove me wrong.
If not, just draw a connecting image for Charles.
But yeah, Brendan's cover RIA. That's my pick.
Cool. I'm split between the 2 RI covers. They're both good. I guess probably when I first saw them before I knew anything about the plot, I probably would have chosen RIB. So I'll go with that. Because that's the one that made me be like, what the hell's going on here?
Isn't that the one that originally spoiled you?
Except that we'll get into that. But yeah, that's the one where I saw it and I'm like, why are they putting spoilers right on the cover?
Right.
So, all right. Well, let's get into the summary here. The title of this is Schismatic. So we begin with Merklin recounting his plans to try and restore magic to his home planet of Prismos. It worked, and all electronic devices stopped working. However, it didn't solve the problem that they were having at the time, and Prismos was eventually destroyed. He's brought out of his memories as he's called to a meeting of the Visionaries. Outside of the protective energy shield surrounding New Prismos on Cybertron, Cup and Ironhide approach and enter the city. They're trying to get the Visionaries to release Merklin, but he's currently serving as their leader. Viralina, leader of the Darkling Lords, is upset that they aren't ruling the planet, but Leoric, leader of the Spectral Knights, insists that the machines on the planet that they now inhabit are intelligent beings. Viralina insists that they must be destroyed, but Merklin says that they need to move carefully. Inside the city, Ironhide and Cup grouse over their current situation as they go to meet Viralina and Leoric. Ironhide is concerned for the security implications, but Cup knows that they've got other refugees on the planet at the moment. What's one more? Cup greets the 2 Visionaries with a ba weep gra na weep ninny bong, to the confusion of the smaller beings. Then Ironhide explains that he's just saying hi. As they get down to the business of discussing terms, Wheeljack and Breakdown approach the city and let Fact Tankor know that they're authorized to enter. But Breakdown suddenly notices an energy seeping from the ground. Upon contact with his arm, it starts spreading and rendering his arm inert and disintegrating. Wheeljack is able to remove the rest of his arm before it's too late, but this isn't a good sign. In the meeting, Virulina thinks that the terms for their presence on Cybertron is unacceptable and that they're actually hostages. And Ironhide doesn't appreciate her attitude, and he says that they can take the deal or leave it. Ironhide and Virulina both angrily leave the meeting, leaving Cup and Leoric to talk, and Cup tries to console them and say that they'll come to their senses. Virulina tells the other Darkling Lords about the meeting, and Sindar tells her about Breakdown's encounter with the Talisman energy. Virulina sees this as a way to eliminate the Cybertronians, but Sindar has some other news about the Talisman. After examining Breakdown, Wheeljack concludes that the energy of the Talisman is spreading outside of the city despite the barrier. He's also discovered that the Talisman itself has begun to burrow further into Cybertron, heading straight to Vector Sigma. Ironhide, Cup, Virulina, and Leoric meet again, and Cup tries to be diplomatic, but Ironhide erupts when he realizes that Virulina knew that the Talisman was moving. Leoric is also surprised at this news, as Ironhide throws the table out of the way and threatens Virulina. She's ready, though, and pulls out a staff crackling with the magic energy and jumps towards Ironhide. Cup shoves him out of the way at the last moment and takes the attack of Virulina's blade instead. Ironhide and Leoric look on in horror as the magic disintegrates Cup, killing him. So, leaving this ending part, the rest of the story I thought was pretty good. It's a bit overshadowed by the editorial mandate to kill Cup. Other than that, like, I was enjoying the story up to that part. And I mean, it's not often we have an Eisner Award-winning writer on a Transformer book. And I thought Basiago was doing, she did a great job with what she was given. Some of the only issues I really had was some of the banter between Ironhide and Cup, where like they used some Earth curses, which seemed odd based on what we've seen with like To All Are One with Ironhide. It just seemed a little bit out of character at times. Fico's art, it was better than when he was on Revolution, but he's still not as good on the Cybertronians as he is on the humans. It was, like I said, better than Revolutions. So, what do you guys think? We're leaving the Cup stuff till at the end.
I enjoyed it too. I thought the story was a good setup. I had recently gone and rewatched the the first 3-parter of the Visionaries, the old Visionaries cartoon. So I had just a little bit more familiarity with the Visionaries characters. I did like how they had set up the Visionaries kind of war to be in the past. So you have the Spectral Knights and the Darkling Lords basically working together, and that so Darkstorm, I think they mentioned in the comic, he was the old Darkling Lord leader. He's the main bad guy in the cartoon, but I guess they changed it so that Virulina now has that role. So I like doing that, how they did that.
I mean, not knowing anything about Visionaries going in, I thought that was nice to kind of know that something had happened in the past, but we're not going to deal with it.
Yeah, I guess my only so I mean, this is something that they it comes out of the First Strike comic and the whole this talisman thing reigniting Prismos and everything. I wasn't clear on where were these people in Prismos before Merklin activated the talisman? Were they like stored in a pocket dimension or something? Or
yeah, I mean, we haven't had any explanation as to that.
Because it's like he had one of those foam dinosaurs and he poured water on it and it turned super big, and now we've got this big instant city in the caves of Cybertron. But I mean, it's a good start to the series. It seems like at least, I mean, we talked about last week how the book did sell out, so maybe that means people had their curiosity piqued. I
Either that or they didn't print enough. So.
Yeah, that's the other theory.
I mean,
I agree with you. I am still not a fan of Fico's Transformers work. The characters still seem off to me when he renders the Transformers characters. The Visionaries look really good. I have no problems there. I like how he redesigned all the Visionary characters. I wonder if they're going to have their gimmick like the original cartoon where they turn into holographic animals. I'm excited to see that if that happens in the next few issues. But yeah, I mean, my criticism will be the Transformers characters. I think they just their proportions just seem off to me.
mm-hmm. What about you, Derek?
Well, I mean, I didn't mind it too much. I kind of expected the Transformers to look not as good going into it because it was Fico. The Autobot symbols on all the figures were just stamps, and I remember that from Revolution. The humans or Visionaries were drawn very well, and I think that's Fico's strength. So the majority of the art was actually really quite good, but I mean, like Charles said, the Transformer aspect is just, it's not great. The story, I knew nothing about the Visionaries coming into this one, so I was afraid that I was going to be pretty lost. And similarly with GI Joe books and Mask books and all that stuff, like, I don't know any of these characters. So the book did a pretty good job of focusing on simply two of the Visionary characters for the majority of the book. Sure, they mentioned this Merklin guy and the bearded guy and then the Dreads guy, who was the other main character that they really focused on. But really it was the girl who, I forget her name already, Virulina. Okay, so yeah, so you are able to kind of start to familiarize yourself with these characters, whether you are like me and can't remember their names, but their names are kind of hard to remember. The story that, as it was going on, and I was trying to wrap my head around, I have yet to finish First Strike, so and seeing as this comes out of First Strike, that's why I'm kind of a little confused. But they have ended up in this cave inside Cybertron. So I get that. Now, they are claiming ownership of Cybertron. Is that what I'm getting at?
Yeah. Like, their whole thing is they're against technology, apparently. So they are just seeing the Transformers as machines,
right?
At least the Darkling Lords.
But that was their technology was on their home planet, which they were against, and they've now destroyed their home planet. So that's why they've left.
It's not clear how their home planet was destroyed.
But it's gone.
Yeah, but it's gone. So what the
Okay.
implication is that what Merklin did to get rid of technology on their home planet and bring about the age of magic evidently didn't take completely, and apparently that led to the destruction of their world.
Okay. So they have left their home world because it's either uninhabitable or destroyed, and they have ended up here within the confines of the planet of Cybertron. They are not on the surface, they are inside the planet.
Underneath. Yeah,
they're subterranean.
Yeah, I didn't really mention it. Yeah, they're under the surface of Cybertron.
Right. So, and they know that they're on a new planet, so they have now taken over this. They want to make.
Let me give you this one spoiler
for
First Strike. So,
yeah, go ahead. I don't care.
You know Krieger, one of the bad guys?
Nope.
Okay. he was the kind of Nazi-looking guy. Didn't he have like the eyepiece and stuff?
The last time I read First Strike was with you. So
okay, well, it was there was this guy, Krieger, that one of the bad guys, and it turns out he was playing everybody because he was Merklin in disguise.
All right, then.
So the whole point of First Strike was to get the talisman into Cybertron, where it would release this magic energy, bring back new Prismos somehow.
Right. And I got that from the book that they consider Cybertron New Prismos, which is the name of their planet, Prismos planet, whatever. What I don't understand is the logic behind the fact that they think that they can come to a new planet, regardless of what it is, and just, this is now our planet. Whoever's here can fuck right off. That's what I don't understand.
That's the logic of every conquering, invading force ever.
What about Optimus saying, "Okay, Earth is now in the Council of Worlds"?
But he's not taking over. He's just giving them a voice in the Council of Worlds.
To be fair, Leoric's group is against. Now that they're there, Leoric's group is like, "Hey, looks like these guys actually are sentient, and they were here first. Maybe we should not just try to take over everything." But the Darkling Lords want to just destroy and, terraform it.
Okay. I'm interested to see where this goes, I guess, because, this is supposed to be 4-issue mini, and personally, I don't think this is going to work out well for the Visionaries, because, they seem to have a magic stick that destroys Transformers, but the Transformers haven't actually tried to hurt any of them yet. I don't see how this is a fair fight in any stretch of the imagination. That's how I understand it. Yes, you've got one invading party that thinks that wherever they go, they own it. But then where they are now, the people who are currently there, or the beings that are currently there, are much bigger than them. And I would hazard a guess to say much fiercer fighters.
Well, they're also kind of underpowered because when Merklin did his thing, he tainted the Energon and Cybertron. So that's why they're in the last book. Was it Optimus Prime, I think, or maybe it was, I don't know, remember if it's the annual for Taller one or if it's Optimus Prime, but they mentioned how they're dependent on Earth for Energon.
Okay.
Because the Energon on Cybertron is now tainted.
Okay.
So they might not be, fully capable of fighting at this point.
Gotcha.
And they also, in this book, they mention how their talisman thing is boring into the planet's core, and if it reaches the core, that's it. So yeah, the Visionaries, I guess, have their advantage is that they're spreading their magic is some kind of contagion that will infect and kill the Transformers.
But I don't so when you say it's boring in and that's it, the Transformers are there, they're living on the planet, they're getting their Energon currently from Earth. So if the thing bores into the center of Cybertron, it's going to do what?
It's going to corrupt or destroy Vector Sigma, and I guess the implication is that it will kill all the Cybertronians on the planet.
I don't know how that's possible.
Well, I don't either.
But
I'm just telling you my inference.
You've got Cybertronians all over the galaxy at this point.
Okay, so it won't kill every Cybertronian everywhere. It would render the planet uninhabitable in terms of there's no longer, the Energon is no longer usable by them.
It's
all the
no
Energon
longer
that
usable now.
And to be fair, Cybertron has been uninhabitable previously in IDW.
Right.
Yeah, so they would have to leave. They would have to leave it again. And that's the Visionaries'
that's their
end goal, is to get rid of all the Transformers.
I just like to see where this goes, I guess. It's it doesn't seem like it's I don't know. There seem to be a lot of holes in this story.
Yeah.
So far.
Well, I mean, is
issue 1, but yeah, seems to be a lot of holes.
So I don't think it's, I think it's more like, it's not like as soon as you touch Vector Sigma, all the Transformers drop dead. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more like it's an environmental disaster for the Transformers.
Right. And what I'm saying is Cybertron doesn't appear to have an environment per se. All their structures are built. All their energon is already fucked.
Well, no, they had the wild areas.
Well, it's a metal planet. They have a desert of rust. There's not much of an environment. But I mean, I'm not a Cybertronologicalist.
Cybertronological is another podcast. It's not us.
But it's,
the way it's, at least you're, Daryl, it's not the most thought out. I mean, we're dealing with an imaginary world, so it's not all completely
what I
thought out.
I needed you to say is that I can't apply logic to this problem. Okay.
But I mean, in the past, at least, all we've seen from, I think we've had some contributions from John Barber and Margaret Scott about the, what's going on Cybertron. There is some kind of natural, flora and fauna that are like, robotic based life forms. Like we have turbo foxes. We've seen like Cybertronian plant life. These are all somehow, drawing energon from the planet to live. I mean, that's the inference. And if there's an ecosystem like that, and the Transformers depend on that in some way and getting their energon from it, then if you collapse that entire ecosystem, then it makes the planet uninhabitable. I mean, that's my, I'm trying to apply, some kind of logical thought to what we've seen in the comics, but
yeah. Oh, and also on Twitter, Vizago has said that this is really the only big political book. The rest of the books are more action.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So
cool.
So I mean, we'll have to see when we get the next book. You want to move on to Cup?
Sure.
Oh yeah, forgot about that. That's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah. So we were talking about the writing, which was strong, the art, which was okay. How about the editorial, which frankly was a dick? Okay, both of you guys have read comics for a long time.
Yeah.
Have you ever, in your history of reading comics, DC, Marvel, whatever, seen a character killed off, followed by a page written from the editorial saying, "Yep, this character's dead. He's not coming back. Tough."
No,
not that I can recall. I mean, the funny thing is, this is the second time Cup has been killed in a crossover book in IDW. So I remember because he was killed.
He was killed in Infestation.
Right, in Infestation. And I remember this because I had bought the Infestation comics, but I hadn't read them yet, and I was reading all the Transformers comics. I was reading the Transformers comics. I got I finished the All Hail Megatron comics, and then I started reading the ongoing series, and I got to a certain point in the ongoing, and after the last Stand of the Wrecker, it's like, where's Cup? Cup just disappeared from the comics. Where is he? Then I read the Infestation comics where he was killed there. And of course he came back. And, in comic books, characters die all the time in comic books, and death is never permanent in comic books. I mean, they had the saying, what was the Marvel saying? That no one is truly dead unless you're Uncle Ben or Bucky. And then they brought Bucky back to life. So
and Uncle Ben's been back too.
Yeah.
And I mean, on the DC side, Barry Allen was dead. I mean, he died in 85 in the Crisis, and then he was dead for a good maybe 30 years or so before they brought him back. But you never saw an editorial mandate saying, "Hey, this guy will never come back."
Yeah.
It it seems like a dick move. I mean, the whole like on, revisiting his life and stuff. Yeah. You kill a character that's beloved, throw that in. The whole editorial thing, just saying, yep, he's dead, dead, dead. I don't see the point in that. And that is just also, I mean, we know that it wasn't the author's plan to kill Cup. It came from editorials. And she said that she did the best she could with it, which, completely, I have no ill will towards her for killing Cup. Because, I mean, I thought Cup was served very well in this book and, kind of died a heroic death, but it was a pointless death.
Yeah.
And, ironically, this comes off of like Lost Light killing a bunch of characters,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have editorial rubbing it in your face. I mean, I just don't see the point in that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, it just makes it feels like, and it's not like this is capping off some great, like at the end of the editorial note, it says, so for the first time, Cup's story is finished. I mean, it's like, this wasn't his story. You just decided to kill him off to promote your other story. It's not like this is some grand finale for Cup. I mean,
it was killed for shock reasons only.
Yeah.
And also to show you the state of editorial, in the editorial letter, they mentioned how he was rescued the first time after he died by Trailblazer. Charles, who is Trailblazer?
Got me. I know a trail breaker, but I don't know a trailblazer.
I know a trail cutter.
Exactly. I mean, either one would have been acceptable because they both existed as one person. Yep. There was also breakdown in the roll call was called breakdown, DOWM.
Now that
editorial.
Come on, guys.
I'm just saying.
I know, but
editorial should pick up mistakes like this, particularly character names that are in the book, or if you're going out of your way to write a letter, at least make sure you get, you're researching things, and you have a major character like Trailbreaker that saved this character. You can get the name right.
Yeah, I mean, this is the bad old days before John Barber. I mean, I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, you had John Barber as someone that ran a very tight ship editorially, but he didn't, like, it wasn't a heavy-handed in the stories themselves. Like, you could tell where the Hasbro mandates were, and you could tell kind of where they tried to work around it, but then you have like More Than Meets the Eye pretty much left to do what it's going to do, and Barber took all the mandates pretty much in his book. And this, I'm afraid that we're just going to have all the books ruined by these like pointless editorial mandates.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I do have to say, I mean, I think these books would not be messed with as much as they are if they were selling better. I mean, I think IDW being a business and trying to sell comics, they're trying to just shake things up to increase their sales. I mean, now we can argue as to whether these methods are actually going to do what they want and whether it makes sense, but I just think if we had more stable sales numbers, we would get the creators a little bit more freedom. And
yeah, but I would also argue that a lot of the sales issues are because of the whole Hasbro universe thing.
Yeah,
I mean, numbers were going down before, but I need to go back and look at them. But my feeling is that after the first Revolution crossover, numbers dived a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a few months ago, how you got those spikes from those number ones, but then you just had month after month of attrition after that. So I don't know. But yeah, this editorial mandates suck in general. I think that's
yeah.
That's always gonna piss off your readers.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we got this entire comic without that letter from David Marriott, I think it would have been a fine book. If you got the book, Cup dying, and then the pages like the in memoriam pages, kind of revisiting Cup, I think that would have been a perfectly fine book. People would have been upset that Cup died, but characters die in comics all the time. We just saw Mirage die.
Yep.
That is Transformers versus Visionaries #1. And we'll see where we go from here.
All right. Well, let's move on to some media news.
In media news this week, we've got a full listing of the Power of the Primes animated series voice cast. Now, we did talk about it a bit last week, but we did get a full listing now. One name gets added to it as a new member of the voice talent. Some guy named Milky Way. Great name. He's coming in as the voice of Snarl.
I think it's Mikey Way.
Didn't I say that?
You said Milky Way.
Whatever. He's a musician, best known as the bassist from the rock band My Chemical Romance. Cool. And a lot of returning talent. Mark Hamill is coming back. We mentioned that as Megatronus. Will Wheaton, Judd Nelson, Carrie Walgren, Jason Marnocha, Abby Trott, Patrick Seitz. He's Overlord, so we'll get more of that funness. Rob Dyke, Dashi Games. Love these people with these amazing names. Oh yeah,
They're
that's
YouTube
right.
stars.
Matt Pat, another YouTube.
It was Computron in Titans Return.
He's coming back as Swoop now.
Yeah.
And Frank Todaro. So he was Starscream in the previous incarnation. Now he'll be Sludge.
And he's at least a Transformers fan.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in the fandom. Did you mention the Samoa Joe and the Greg Berger?
We mentioned him last week.
Oh.
One thing that I notice is that Peter Cullen is not in the returning talent list.
Well,
So does that mean Optimus Prime is truly dead? They are really killing him off?
see, there was an editorial letter, Charles. I don't know if you read it.
Optimus Prime is dead forever. He's never
never.
coming back.
Yeah. I do notice here with Greg Berger, it says the original voice of Grimlock from that 1986 film Transformers the
From
movie.
that movie.
Yeah, the Grimlock didn't exist before or after.
We did get a poster, as Machinima has been doing recently. This one is for Megatronus, featuring Megatronus and advertising that Mark Hamill is in the show.
He's got a very stupid looking hat. It kind of reminds me of who's that Marvel?
Galactus,
Is it
yeah.
Galactus?
Yes.
Kind of looks like that.
The Hasbro Activision license for that they had for Transformers video games has expired. So if you were waiting for another one of those Transformers, the G1 games, I think the G1 games were done by Activision as well, like Devastation.
Everything but the mobile.
Yeah, so the Devastation games, if you were waiting for another one of those, not happening. So that's too bad.
They've also, I think they've all disappeared from many online digital
That's right.
stores. So
Yeah. I mean, if you bought it, you can re-download it, but can't buy new, can't buy DLC.
That's too bad. We've got some new. I think this is from the same guy who you kind of sponsored on online, Jeremy.
It is.
Yeah, the guy who did the restoration project for the G1 soundtrack. He's finished season 4, Rebirth. So you can take a look at that and download the soundtrack there on his blog post. That I think is going to finish off with his entire project, unless he's got some extra stuff out there. But
season 4, his season 4 soundtrack since Rebirth was 3 episodes. It also has a bunch of alternate takes or like slightly different versions of tracks from the other 3 seasons.
That's cool.
So I mean, it's a pretty hefty season 4.
Right on.
And remind me later I've got it all downloaded for you guys.
Well, there's a link on the article to go to his site and download it.
Yeah, if you want to download it, you can get it there. I've tagged it and everything. Made it all pretty.
Cool. And lastly, we've got some more extended audio and deleted audio from that Transformers at the Moon. This one is for the Generation 1 episode, A Plague of Insecticons. So if you've been enjoying listening to those like I have, check this one out. It's another good one. And that's it for media news.
Yeah. Well, before we move on, there was another one they recently released with, I guess Peter Cullen wasn't in the studio that day. And, dang it, brain freeze. Starscream voice actor.
Chris Latta?
Chris Latta did all the Prime's lines.
Really?
Not really even trying to sound like Optimus Prime, just kind of sounding kind of Western. And it was hilarious. I was cracking up.
I don't think I've heard that one yet.
Yeah, it's on their YouTube as well.
Cool.
It's funny.
All right. Well, that's all for media news. Let's move on to some convention news.
Right. The first thing we have in convention news is the Hasbro has announced Transformers Autobot Alliance, which is an interactive exhibition in China. We actually had a soft opening December 30th, but it's now officially opened as of January 11th. And it's a collaboration between Hasbro and City Neon Holdings Limited, which I believe we talked about in the past, has gotten some license for international shows. And it looks like it's a walk-through attraction. We haven't really seen any pictures other than their poster, but I would really love to see exactly what they're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
And, I could see this as something for the next HasCon, bringing this over in something that they fully control.
The poster has a weird combination of art here. We've got a looks like a G1 Masterpiece inspired Optimus Prime. We've got looks like toy inspired Windblade, a G1 inspired Ironhide, a Titans Return Alpha Trion, and a kind of hybrid Bumblebee that's more
that new
I guess a
style.
Generations Bumblebee. Yeah.
And then that Fort Max in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah, it's gonna have robots, special effects, virtual reality. So I mean, it sounds pretty impressive. I really want to see. I'm sure we'll see like YouTube videos and stuff of people going through it.
Mm-hmm.
The next and last thing we have in convention news this week is TF Nation has announced that James Roberts is going to be attending, which is a big surprise since, he never goes to these conventions in the UK. But I'm sure he's going to have very popular panels talking about Lost Light and More Than Meets the Eye and, what characters people love so he can go and kill them. So this shaping up to be another fun convention. So we're still waiting, guys. Yeah, but that's all the convention news we got this week.
All right, and let's finish up the show with some feedback. All right, first bit of feedback comes from a good friend Kashi, replying on our last alt mode episode where we briefly mentioned the Malaysian dub of the Headmasters Transformers series, and replying to that, Kashi says TransMissions' official band name should be Billy and the Power Pack.
I like that.
So for those not familiar, Billy is what they called Blaster in the Malaysian dub, and then the Power Pack was the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, another bit. We actually have a question here. This comes from one of our newer Patreons, Dr. Pants. Dr. Pants says, "Hey guys, have you ever had a character that you considered a favorite or just liked a lot ruined by any specific interpretation of that character? For example, any G1 characters ruined by their portrayal in the live-action movies, such as Face Takemus Prime, or any character that's appeared in the IDW comics but different from their original incarnations, such as Starsaber being a murderous zealot. I don't mean you just didn't like the interpretation, but it ruined how you view that character as a whole. Thanks, guys. Look forward to your answers. All right. I guess for me, the one thing that still sticks in my craw, I mean, it didn't completely ruin this character for me, but it kind of upsets me that a lot of fans who get into Transformers now view this version of the character as the standard or real version, and that's Bumblebee. I just don't like the live action portrayal of Bumblebee as a mute, and that's become a defining characteristic of him across, and it's bled into other incarnations like the Transformers Prime cartoon series and the Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron video games.
He's no longer the scout character, the optimistic.
Yeah, he just, I just really liked the original Bumblebee portrayal. I mean, Dan Gilvezan gave Bumblebee that kind of spunky attitude, and I would have liked to seen that continue. Like, I mean, if we go back to Transformers Animated, where we had Bumblebee, I think the voice actor was Bumper Robinson. That was another version of Bumblebee that I really liked, but the talking Bumblebee has been drowned out by the silent Bumblebees throughout all the other incarnations. Although just recently with RID cartoon, that's maybe being rehabilitated with but that was more like a super like leader Bumblebee, not kind of the small scout. Maybe that'll be changed with the Cyberverse cartoon, where he'll go back to his kind of scout little guy ways. I don't know, but yeah, so that's kind of a bummer for me. I really like the G1 version of Bumblebee, and he's been kind of left by the wayside. Jeremy, any characters that are particularly a problem for you?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, the movies are an easy shot, so I'm gonna try to stay away from them because you can just assume yes. I think with Titan's Return, it's kind of soured me on Rodimus / Hot Rod. That just doesn't seem, based on what we've seen in the character, even in the cartoon, where he didn't really, the burden of power was really pressing on him. In the Titan's Return thing we just saw, he basically just threw away the Matrix really easily, and it did not seem to fit the character to me.
Yeah, I mean, and it looks like that they're doubling down on that with the next version going to be Rodimus Unicronus there.
Yeah.
All right, Daryl, any characters that have been ruined forever for you?
Well, for me, it's harder to do because I'm more of a toy first than a comic or other fiction. So generally, if the toy is good, I'm usually okay with the characterization. But with I do have to go back to the live action movie pool here for mine. Starscream in the live action movie, I cannot get around his robot mode. It's horrendous. And
yeah,
I don't like it. There's been no toy that I've been able to find that has been able to pull it off well. And I mean, it might even be that the figure is doing a good job of it. I just hate the way it looks. And that just goes back to the design of the figure or the character. Now, Starscream, as the characterization of Starscream, there is almost an unlimited pool to pull from there. And it's been done very well I could talk about G1, but I'm not going to do that. It was done exceedingly well in Transformers Prime, and even touched on in Transformers RID with his few appearances. I I don't think that the movie verse has been able to capture that, even though in the first movie they really did try to peg him as this, sniveling, kiss ass. Yeah, it's the movie verse Starscream has almost ruined that character of Starscream for me. Thankfully, there's been enough G1 iterations to go around that I've been able to kind of almost erase it from my memory. But yeah, that's been.
And then you have the excellent comic version that we just kind of
exactly,
saw. That,
yeah. So that's precisely it. I can kind of clear my head with the other ones, or erase the movie version out of it.
All right. Well, hope you like those answers, Dr. Pants. And maybe you can write in and tell us if there was a character that was ruined for you. You mentioned Star Saber. I don't know if that would be your pick, but let us know. Or Face Takemus Prime. I think that's also a good one. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Later.
Thanks for listening to Transmissions. Remember, you can help support the show by donating to us directly via Patreon or PayPal. Once you become a donor, you will receive access to donor-only goodies, like donor-only contests, listening to us record Transmissions live, and getting Transmissions swag at 20% off. You can find links for this at transmissionspodcast.com/support. Subscribing to us on Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play is also a great way to support us here at Transmissions. Every subscription we get helps us get better noticed on those services. Leaving us a comment and 5-star review doesn't hurt either. Be sure to come chat with us on Discord. You will find a link for Discord at transmissionspodcast.com/Discord. And of course, you can always send us an email at feedback@transmissionspodcast.com. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again next week.